Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Women of Golf Show here on September 9th, 2014. Another beautiful Tuesday morning. Glad that you're joining us here this morning. Let me just remind everybody that you can tune in here every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on blogtalkradio.com. But before I go further, let me, of course, bring on my great co-host of the program, one of the hardest working women in golf today, LPGA professional Cindy Miller. Cindy, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Ted. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. I was just thinking here when I read the date, I remember today is my mother's birthday, so I'll have to give her a quick call after the program today and wish her a happy birthday.
That would be great.
Can't forget the most important woman in my life, so I will do that after the program. Got to pay respects to my mother. But anyways, just to remind everybody, as I said, we're here every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on blogtalkradio.com. Easiest way to get there is go to the blogtalkradio.com, and you can go up into the search key, and you can click on Women of Golf, or you can just simply add it on to the link, put a / after blogtalkradio.com, and just type in Women of Golf, and that'll take you there just as quick. Also, if you want to speak to Cindy and I or call into the program at any time during the live broadcast, which is from 9 a.m. Eastern to 10 a.m. Eastern, you can do so by calling area code 347-945-5855, or you can certainly email any questions or comments to the program at womenofgolf@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can always get a hold of Cindy at cindy@cindymillergolf.com. If you're interested in connecting with her, please do so. She's a great professional lady and a great asset to the golf business in general. Also, let me remind everybody as well, next week, with some commitments coming up in that, both Cindy and myself, we're not likely going to have a show next Tuesday, but we'll be back the following Tuesday. But just to let everybody know that. And also one other thing to remind you, that if you missed any of the broadcast during the live performance, you can always visit the link that I just read out to you a few moments ago, and you can go down through the on-demand section. All the programs are recorded during the live broadcast. So if you happen to miss one of the episodes, make sure that you go back and tune into it later when it's convenient for you. And as I mentioned to you a few weeks ago, Cindy and I had a great series. Cindy brought a fantastic series called Own Your Game. There were 12 components to it, so make sure if you missed any of them or if you want to listen to them again, certainly really help you with the mental side of things in golf. So make sure you go back and listen to those. Cindy, we got some great ladies joining us this morning. First up in here just a few minutes is Michelle Estill. She's a Ping representative and also a former LPGA player, and now settling nicely on the Legends Tour. And a little bit later on, we're going to be joined by Jane Crafter, also a former player on the LPGA Tour and currently on the Legends Tour, and she's also a Golf Channel analyst. So they're going to be joining us here in just a little bit. And last few weeks.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It sounded like you left.
No, sorry. No, I haven't left the building yet. Elvis has not left the building. No, what I was asking you, Cindy, was what's been happening in the last week?
Well, school started back up in Western New York, and that means that the golf business kind of starts to slow down a little bit. So instead of working in your business, you can start working on your business. So Ellen and I have been setting up the dates and times for all the boot camps we're going to have. We're going to have a junior boot camp, which we have every year at Orange County National in Orlando. During the February break for the kids, we take junior golfers who are committed, dedicated, and serious down to Orange County where they typically hold the PGA Tour qualifying school, and we help them improve their games for a week down there. We have breakfast every morning, and then we hit balls and work on our games, and we have lunch, and then we play 18 holes with them every afternoon. So clearly it's not really a golf vacation. One of the highlights of the week is that we do take them on a trip to the Golf Channel, where our daughter is a feature producer. And then we do adult boot camps. And this year I think we're going to add Orlando to the mix. Typically we go to Daytona, to LPGA International, or we go to TPC at Sawgrass, or PGA National. So that's what we've been doing, working on our business instead of in our business so much.
That's right. That's the one beauty of in this profession is there's so many options and opportunities to be able to move around. I know, Cindy, you travel a lot both with your business and also as a Legends Tour player. You're playing events, and how you manage to multitask all of that together is still an anomaly to me. But I'll figure it out one of these days. But you have lots of great opportunities to bring this fantastic game to so many, not only juniors, but to ladies as well out there, and just players in general that want to help and want to learn this great game that you and I have the pleasure of playing all the time. And we thank you for that, and continued much success and much hard work. And Cindy, I see that Michelle is here and joining us, so I'm just going to do a quick introduction, and then we'll bring her on the show. As I mentioned, our first guest, of course, is Michelle Estill, and she's a Ping representative and also a former LPGA Tour player. She credits the LPGA teaching and club professionals member Linda Volstead as the individual that most influenced her career. In 1994, she won the Budget Service Award for her contributions to the LPGA Urban Youth Golf Program through her active participation in the LPGA Urban Youth Golf Pen Pal program. Some of her hobbies include, of course, reading, cycling, scuba diving, fishing, and photography. And she was a member of the LPGA Executive Committee from 96 to 98 and served as its president in 1998. So let's welcome Michelle Estill.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Michelle. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Thanks for getting us on for us. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Michelle, for getting up early and joining us on the program this morning. Oh, and I think we just lost her. Yeah, it looks like she must have had a bad signal. We just lost her. So we'll wait just a moment here for her to call back into the program. We apologize for that delay. Must have had, as I said,
we did this weekend. We did Own Your Game Rochester, and we did a seminar, a 3-hour seminar, where we had our participants take the personal disc sport compass assessment.
Right.
And then we went over the like we did on the show when we did the Own Your Game series.
Right.
And then we went over and did a presentation on what they could do to learn to own their game, more personal goals and objectives, and gave them the game plan booklet that they can continue to pursue and fill out and learn how to better score on the golf course. So if any of our listeners out there would like to bring the Own Your Game series to your country club, definitely email me, cindy@cindymillergolf.com, because we would love to come to your club and do it for your members. So it was really successful.
Okay, fantastic. And we'll mention that again at the end of the program. Cindy, I see that Michelle has joined us back in. Michelle, I apologize, not sure what happened here, but you got dropped from the program, and usually we don't do that until the end of the program, but today we decided to do something a little bit different and flip it around and drop you at the beginning of the show. But anyways, welcome back,
okay.
Michelle. Thank you for joining us.
No worries.
Thank you for joining us. Cindy, go ahead.
Michelle, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. One of the things I'm going to talk about in a few minutes here is the Trilogy Athletes, because I want to learn more about it. I'm being vetted as a speaker and a trainer and a coach in that program. But first I want to talk to you about Ping, because I'm so grateful that I was able to go out to Ping and get fit for a driver. I kind of piggybacked with one of our students who was then competing on the Vanderbilt golf team, and you helped set this up for us, which I really appreciate. But I got a driver that I hit farther than any other driver I've ever had. And if there's anybody who wants to purchase yardage, it would be Cindy Miller. So I thank you for that. So tell me why Ping is so good at this.
Well, we've been doing it for so long is one reason. And Karsten, that was his passion, he wants golfers to play better. And one of the reasons probably that you hit it farther than you ever have, we are engineering driven, so we're great in that area. But it just proves that if you really get fit for a club that is truly fit for you, that fits you, performance out of it. And that's one of the things we've been doing great for over 50 years.
Well, I got to tell you, again, because I don't hit it very far. In fact, the last time I played with you, I believe, was at the LPGA Championship. After I had won the National Teaching Championship, I got to play in the tournament, and my son Jamie was caddying for me. This is a great story. I just told it the other day. And so number 10 or 11, number 11, the par 5, was the long drive hole. They wanted to measure how far you hit your driver. And I absolutely killed this driver, right? And I was so proud of me. I was 48 at the time, or 49, I think. And I killed it, and I hit it 240, and you missed yours, and it went 270. And God bless our son Jamie. He just turned and looked at me with this blank stare, and he goes, "Mom, you need to give it up. You're too old."
Well, old to be young.
Shut up, you little brat.
Out of the mouth of babes, they say, right?
That's right.
Oh, God. Anyway, so I do appreciate all that Ping does. I guess it's amazing how well you do at it. Can you tell us the process that you use?
Well, for fitting, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the first things for anyone that's interested in getting fit and they go and visit a facility, an authorized facility, that fitter should be asking a lot of questions. The first thing we have to figure out is what you want as a golfer, because what I want and what you want may be two different things, right? So I always say, hey, how high do you hit it? They say, I hit it really high, and to me it looks like it's about half the height it should go, right? So a good fitter will really ask a lot of questions and pay attention to what you really want, like a good teacher, like you. You listen to what they want, and then you work around that. So when I'm fitting somebody, I ask them a lot of questions. I take some static measurements. We've been doing it for so long, I have a 70% chance of being right if I just took static measurements and asked you questions. Then we do some dynamic testing, and we narrow it down. And when you leave, I always say to whenever I'm working with, you have a little homework now. You should take advantage of what Ping does different. And I hopefully educate them as to what changes they can make over time with their equipment, what the equipment does and how it affects their ball flight. And when they leave, hopefully I fit them properly, and then they know how to make changes down the road as their body and their game changes.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, Michelle, that's so important. I think a lot of, especially your high handicap or your amateur golfers, really miss the boat on. They don't understand the importance of being properly fitted. They just assume, they can go into any, retail store or pro shop and pick up a set of clubs, and that's all they need to do. And really, that's only part of the process. That's just the initial purchase. From that point on, they need to be properly fitted. And explain why. Why is important? What's the difference, whether I just buy a set of clubs off the rack or whether I'm fitted? How is it going to help my game?
Well, it'll allow you to optimize everything that you have. I mean, we all bring to the fitting range, as I call it, whatever game we have. So a good fitter will be able to fit your game so that you can maximize who you are. I kind of equate it a little bit to going to the shoe store and buying a pair of shoes off the wall without trying them on. You go home, you wear them,
right.
Like, they're a little uncomfortable, but they're going to be okay. No, that's what golfers do. The average golfer does, I see. When they buy a set of clubs, they're like, it does all right. I'm not a very good player. Well, then you get them a club that's really fit for them, and they're like, wow, that goes way farther than my club does. That 7-iron was a lot straighter. Well, yeah, because you're playing with a set that's too stiff, too heavy, and too short. So I understand why they do it, but getting fit's so important.
And what are some of the things that traditionally, just to take that a little bit further, Michelle, is when you're not fitted properly, what are some of the things that you're going to see with the average golfer? What's going to happen, and I'm talking about from a negative standpoint, when they're not properly fitted? What are some of the things that they're going to experience?
Well, usually the direction of their shots will suffer, right? They either are going to hit it. It's off. It may go right or it may go left. I usually see a big change in the height of their balls. You know, the trajectory of it, if it's not the proper weighted shaft or the proper shaft for them. The length of it, I often find that sometimes I don't change length off of what we recommend very much, but if you're tall or short and you're just buying off the rack, that also can change your posture. So sometimes it's just buying off the rack changes your swing, and I don't think we want to do that. We want to fit to who you are and what your swing is and what you are when you're working with your teacher, and then learn to make changes down the road, because that's one of the beauties of ping. Some of the engineering elements that we do, a golfer can make changes. If I had known when I was playing golf, thank goodness I didn't, but if I'd known that the reason my 5 and 4 iron went so far to the right is as they got longer, they got harder for me to control, and I could have just made them a little more upright, oh man, that would have been so much easier than trying to change my swing to hit those straighter. And I worked hard at that, and I'm thinking, man, if I'd only known, I could have just been a little more upright and kept my normal swing, right? I didn't want to, and kept my swing, I'd been so much better. But lesson learned.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what unfortunately, a lot of the amateur golfers end up doing is they try to make changes, with their swing or their posture, in other words, to accommodate to the club, where really the reverse is what's true, is they should be adjusting the club to fit their natural posture and so forth. The other thing, too, is, and I think that a lot of people take this for granted, and I'm sure you see a lot of this when people come back in for refittings and so forth, a lot of very slick grips. A lot of people don't change the grips on their clubs as often maybe as they should. Is that something you commonly see?
I do. I see it a lot, and they should. I mean, if you're playing a lot of golf, I just think they ought to be changed. If you're not going to clean them, then they need to be changed quite a bit. I mean, I think about it.
Right.
I played a lot of golf, but I meet amateurs every day that play as much golf as I did when I was playing. Crazy.
Well, and a lot of I see sometimes when I go to the range myself, and I'm up there working on and I'm also a teacher as well, so I'm always looking around, observing. See people coming out there, and I'll have to adjust my sunglasses because the glare from the shine on their grips is so bad. I mean, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but you get the point.
Right.
And I'll go up to them and I'll say, when was the last time you had your grips changed? And, I've never had them. Well, how long have you had the set of clubs? Well, 5 years. And they wonder why their shots, and it's not the only reason, but one of the reasons why they're not having control over their equipment. And it's because they're not maybe being fitted properly, but they're also not being regripped often enough, especially if you're playing every weekend or every week. It's just something that's important, and a lot of people miss the boat on that. So that's a great point as well, Michelle, for you to point that out. What are some other common things that you see that some of the average golfers miss when it comes to fitting?
I think buying golf equipment in general is unique. I see a lot of people that don't think they need to be fit. When you get out there on a driving range, sometimes when I'm fitting someone, they equate that to a lesson, right? And I always have to say, hey, I'm fitting who you brought today. So you should swing exactly the way you swing, and let's work towards the things you're great at, and try to help some of the elements that you struggle with. Instead of out there, well, I hit that bad, I hit that good. They equate a fitting session to it, like coming to see you guys for teaching, and that you really need to separate those two elements, because a good fitter isn't going to change who you are. They have to fit and let the teachers be great at what they do and teach them. So I get a lot of people out there that just want me to teach them. The other thing I see a lot of too is I don't know how to golfers. Well, I don't like this club because I can't feel when I miss it. Well, that's okay. That's really what you want, as long as you're prepared that when you're off, your score is going to go up. I find a lot of golfers play outside of a model or a club that perhaps they should for some different reasons. Yeah. And that's what I find with the amateur golfer compared to a professional golfer. A professional golfer wants what works best that's going to help them score so they can make money.
Right.
An amateur golfer, a lot of times, they get into
they tend to be in denial.
in denial. I mean, I get it all the time in a 30 handicapper that wants to play the blade. I'm like, that's okay. You can play that if you want, but I want to educate you when you leave today that this is what's going to happen when you show up at the golf course and your timing's off.
Yeah, and then you're going to say the clubs don't work.
Exactly.
That raises, ladies, that raises a really valid question, and I'm going to ask both of you this question. Michelle, I'll start with you, of course, being our guest, and Cindy, I want you to chime in as well because I know you work with so many ladies. There's obviously so many different types of clubs out there. You've obviously got your traditional blades, and then you've got more of your game improvement irons. How does one know, from an amateur perspective, how do they know what's right for them? How do you help them in that process?
Well, the way I like to do it is at Ping right now we have 4 models. And because you can pick any head, any shaft, any grip, I start the conversation with what the different models do. Some of it has to do with look, right? I mean, some people just say, hey, I can't look at that club. But a lot has to do with your level of talent. And I try to not talk them into that direction, but educate them as to what the one with the more perimeter weighting, what it'll do for you. Here's your challenges. Or compared to a more workable club, this one's more workable and less forgiving. This one's really forgiving, hits it high and straight. And if you give them those options, they'll usually gear in one direction or the other.
I think it's probably how you say it to them. Don't you think?
That you do what?
How you say it to them. Needless to
exactly.
say, yeah. So that
that's why I put the 4. Yeah, I put the 4 models up, all of them, from the hardest to hit to the most easy to hit, and I explain each one. This is what these do, and then I let them narrow it down to a couple, and then we just start hitting. And almost 95% of the time, one will win out right off the bat when they start hitting. I like to make them part of the decision. It's their clubs. They need to be happy when it's all over.
Let me ask you a question. I was just at the LPGA National Teaching Championship, and there was a vendor there that was allowing us to try different clubs. And I used to use the Nippon shaft, steel shaft Nippon. And I picked up a Nippon shaft, a club and iron, and I was like, oh, my God, I can feel this at the top. This feels great. But the question, I wasn't a fitting. It was just, a demo day type of thing. And so the little voice in your head's like, I wonder if I should be changing shafts. Maybe these graphite shafts I've got are too light. When do you know when it's too light or too heavy?
So remember that the weight of the club, so Nippon, by the way, is a unique shaft in that it's a steel shaft that you get the consistency of the steel, but it actually has the feel of a graphite shaft. Very popular on the LPGA Tour, at least when I was playing, and I think still is, because it's lighter in weight. If a shaft was too light, you'd see it spin up, you'd lose control, you might lose some distance if it was going too high. If the shaft's too heavy or too stiff, it doesn't reach the apex, you'll notice how when they start to float out of the air, that's kind of a too heavy shaft. If the last 4 or 5 holes of your round, you get tired, you struggle with your accuracy, it's too heavy or too stiff. Karsten always believed you should play the heaviest, stiffest shaft you can handle, and that's what I always stress to people. You can handle. Right now we're on the range. We've hit a bunch of balls. You're hitting an extra stiff. It feels great. I said, you need to test that out because you don't even know if it's too heavy when you get either when you're warming up or you get on hole about 14 and you're exhausted for the day. Graphite, has a tendency. Graphite has a tendency to, I think, for a good player that doesn't create a lot of side spin, I think it has a tendency to fall a little bit both directions when you hit it real solid compared to steel.
Well, I think you might be, I'm sure you're right. But that's funny because my driver that I was fit for by the tour fitter from Ping is an 8.5-degree men's stiff. When people look at me, I'm like, yeah, I'm the old lady, but don't mess with me. I got big guns.
And Alan, if you're listening, Alan, if you're listening, you better be careful.
Remember, with your driver too, it's the only club in your bag that you tee up and you're swinging full out almost all the time. I would say 99% of the time you're swinging all the way and you never make contact with the ground. Hopefully, You don't. So that can be a little different than the rest of your set.
Yeah.
Before we move on, ladies, because Cindy, I know you had some other questions that you wanted to ask Michelle. Let me just very quickly ask you, Michelle, if somebody is interested in being fitted. I know there's a lot of demo days and things that are across the nation at various times and various locations. How can somebody go and where can they go to find out where something is taking place near them, and or where there's a Ping fitting center near them?
Right. It's a great question. So you can go on to ping.com and locate two things: a demo day in your area by putting in your zip code where it says right up on the top of the web page. But more to me, if someone's going to buy golf equipment, which is an investment today, they should take the time to get fit. Look up an authorized retailer. Take the time to make an appointment so that it's one-on-one and you get their undivided attention. That's the number one way I'd do it. If you don't have time, you just want to dabble and try different equipment, and I'm all for that because, again, we put all our money into engineering. I'm confident we'll perform. Then you can just look up a demo day and come on out and try it. Right on the webpage.
And that's ping.com. And the other thing, one last thing, also too, I think it's important, as well as obviously the fitter is going to have a series of questions for you, the average golfer out there. I think it's also important for the golfers to maybe have some questions in mind that they may want to ask the fitter, correct?
Correct. Yeah, you should have some questions for them.
In other words, the better prepared you are, the better overall experience it's going to be for both the fitter and obviously the individual. Cindy, I know that you wanted to talk about some other things besides just the equipment.
Yeah,
one last thing on that point that you just made. This is important for the golfer that's going to get fit. You're the decision maker. They should not let anybody talk them into something. They should know what they want, and they do. They just don't always know it. You know, you want to hit it high or you want to hit it low. Don't be afraid to let the fitter know, hey, no, I like that height. I want to hit it that way. And you make the final decision when it comes to buying your clubs. I like to stress that because a lot of times fitters will tell the golfer what they should be playing, and that's not the way it should be. So the questions are right. Good point.
That does happen often. Thank you.
Yep.
Second topic here today is, can you tell me a little bit more about Trilogy Athletes? I think this is a great concept, and I certainly hope that it moves forward and they get tons of members because they're truly trying to help a lot of people.
That Trilogy Athletes is is awesome. It's based a little bit after YPO and Vistage, which are where like-minded people get together at higher levels. You know, YPO is Young Presidents Organization, and Vistage deals with usually self-employed people. And they help each other. They solve problems. They're like-minded. In the athletic world, we don't really have that. And so Trilogy Athletes combines the highest level of athletes. You either have to be an Olympian or a professional athlete. You can be active or already transitioned. And it's great to be able to bounce ideas, issues that you may have. A lot of these athletes have started foundations and they support lots of areas, and it's great to have those resources. And all of that I appreciate about it. To me, the greatest thing about it is we're like-minded people. I mean, I work kind of out different than a lot of them where I work in a business. I work for a corporation. I have different challenges as an athlete that all athletes do, and I'm sure you do too, Cindy, where I work at a different pace. I'm driven by different motives. I have a different work ethic. Not that there aren't some people inside of Ping, because we all work at the factory, and I used to work at the factory. But the day would end, and we'd work 8 hours, and I'd be like, are we done? That's it? I got to go home?
Yeah.
Now what am I going to do with the rest of my day? But we have unique challenges, too, and so it's very helpful to be part of that community.
And how did you become part of that community?
I was recruited, like you were, to be part of a founding member. I partake in the peer advisory groups. We have some outside speakers. I think one of the most fabulous resources is their resource online period. You can look up a speaker and listen to them on any subject, not just sports but in business, and the library is unbelievable that they have, and it's so beneficial. But there's two things that make it unique, I think, compared to other businesses or organizations that try to help athletes. It's just not helping an athlete transition or get another job after they're done. There's lots of people out there that say they do this type of work. It's athletes helping athletes make it to that level. And then after you get to that level and you move on to whatever you choose to do, it's having that community to help you through any issues, problems, challenges you may have, goals you have that you need some help with from your community. The network is huge. So it's different than, I see it all the time, it's different than just coaching. It's different than a person just coming along and saying, okay, Cindy, I'm going to coach you into the next area of your life, wherever your transition. So let me help you get there. Well, once you kind of get there, now there's nothing there for you. They're done with you. You paid them your money, and you're on your own. Whereas Trilogy is truly a like-minded community. It's been awesome so far to be part of.
That's great. They call it the locker room for life, and I think that there's a mutual bond and respect amongst professional athletes, no matter what your sport. We all needed to be disciplined, hardworking, love competition. So there's so many characteristics that we are all, have to go through to achieve the highest level of what it is your sport was and how to get to the top. And then when it's over, there are challenges.
Right. Transition is a challenge for a lot of people. I probably had the benefit where I fiddled around for a few winters before I found something I wanted. So I knew I was going to retire in a few years, and so I started the process. And it took me a while. But I've already transitioned out, and I'm into the workforce now. So I'm a different type of a Trilogy member compared to a lot of them, and it'll grow as we get there. It'll get better and better. So as an example, last week, which was this month's Trilogy meeting, one of the members presented her vision, her objectives of what she's doing, and it happened to be a skier up in Canada. And so then the members, she'll ask questions. Here's what I'm struggling with. Here's what I need help with. Here's my ideas for raising money. And then everybody either partakes then, or you send an email. And one of the things she was doing was going to run a golf tournament, a Pro-Am. So I'm like, okay, I can probably send some ideas in that area. So because there's so many different areas, it helps that person with whatever their goals are. So, and it was funny, yeah, because her team that she has, a ski team up there, she said getting them to work as a team, she equated it to like herding cats. I got such a kick out of that, being in golf, right? So think about it. We're a bunch of individual people. It's like herding cats. So I thought, boy, that's just a perfect analogy.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much for being on air with us today. We really, really appreciate it. And I really thank you for getting these shifts for pain, because I got to tell you, it really made a difference.
I appreciate you came out, and that's your support of Ping, too, by the way. Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed it.
Not a problem. Thank you, Michelle, again for enjoying us, and you're welcome back anytime on the program.
Thanks. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Okay. That was, of course, Michelle Estill, former LPGA player, but certainly active on the Legends Tour, and she's also a Ping rep, as we just talked about, and also a member of the Trilogy Athletes. Certainly want to check that out as well. Our next guest, of course, has been waiting here in the wings for us, Jane Crafter, and she's also a former LPGA Tour player and also a part of the Golf Channel family, a Golf Channel analyst. And here's a little bit about Jane before we bring her on. She was inducted in the South Australian Sports Hall of Fame and also the South Australian Golf Industry Hall of Fame in 2011. She had an unofficial win, the J.C. Penney mixed team in 98 with Steve Jones. 3 international wins, 1992 and 93 Ladies Masters, the 97 Women's Australian Open. As an amateur, won the 1978 New Zealand Amateur and the 1980 Belgian Amateur, and was runner-up in the 77 Australian Amateur and 1980 Canadian Amateur. She's represented Australia in international and competitions at least 10 times. Started playing golf at the age of 6, and credits her father Brian, Whiffy Smith, and Donna White, and the late Dr. Dee Dee Owens as individuals for most influencing her career. and is a women's golf television commentator for ESPN, NBC, and the Golf Channel. And her nickname is Crafty Mate, and we'll ask her a little bit about that as well. But so let's welcome Jane Crafter to the program.
Well,
Jane,
thank you very
welcome to Women
much.
of Golf.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
I hope I got everything correct.
Yes.
I hope I got the list.
You only missed one thing, and that was my only official LPGA win.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It just happened back in 1990, so a good number of years ago. But hey, that's okay.
Well, welcome to the show, and we're glad to have you. Cindy, I know you had some questions lined up that you wanted to ask Jane.
I ask first, are you okay with all the floods in Phoenix?
Yes, I tell you what, I woke up in the middle of the night to some awful thunder and lightning, and it rained solidly from the middle of the night till probably 8 or 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning. Some areas of Phoenix had 5 or 6 inches of rain in about less than 12 hours, and the freeways turned into rivers, Cindy and Ted. It was something I've never, ever seen, and I've only been here, I think, 9 years, but people who've been here all their lives have never seen anything like that. So huge amount of rain in a short period of time, and personally, I'm fine. Just needed to get some water out of the garage and backwash the pool, but there's some people way, way worse than me.
Wow. Well, let's hope that the sun comes out and everybody's okay.
That's right. Well, it soaks in pretty quickly, and they finally opened Interstate 10 yesterday afternoon late, just in time for Monday Night Football, which our Cardinals won, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Oh.
Perfect.
Go ahead,
Let me ask you a question. How did you get into being a television commentator analyst?
Well, as it turns out, you mentioned my father, Brian, was my first and probably my best coach. He eventually got into television himself for the ABC Australian Broadcasting Commission in Australia. And back in the early 90s when we started having some rather large professional tournaments down there, he was in the commentary booth. And after I finished playing, the guys suggested I should pop up into the booth and do some guest appearances. And people, liked what they heard, and they suggested, that I might have a future in that. So that was sort of my earliest attempt at doing TV. And then my dad eventually passed away in 1994, and I took some time off at the end of 95, just some personal, problems. And I thought, what else could I do to sort of supplement my LPGA career? So I kind of got a resume tape together, Cindy, and, sent it in to ESPN. I sent it in to NBC. I sent it in to Golf Channel, but they were really in their formative years and really didn't have anything available for me. But Tommy Roy at NBC and Larry Cirillo, who was the producer there at ESPN at the time, gave me a try. And so my first television event, lo and behold, was the Solheim Cup for NBC in Wales in 1996. And then it wouldn't be again until 1998 where I would start doing the U.S. Women's Opens for NBC. So it was sort of my search for something to add another string to my bow while I was still playing at the time. And I guess it's kind of worked out pretty well.
Well, you do a marvelous job, so we thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
What do you see in the players today that might be different from when you first started?
I think the fact that these girls are so much younger, they're better at a much earlier age, and they come on the tour way earlier than in my era. I didn't turn professional until I was 25. I got my degree in pharmacy in Australia, and I came over here after working as a pharmacist for a few years, and I came over here when I was 25. And I think most players back in that era kind of went through college. I didn't have that opportunity, but a lot of them, came right out of college, and they were in their early 20s. Nowadays, you've got, kids petitioning at 15 and 16 to get onto the LPGA. They're better, they're stronger. The equipment, wow, I mean, that's just amazing how much better the equipment is. and I think sometimes the courses are struggling to keep up. But I think the players are better at a younger age. I guess that's probably what I see is the big difference, Cindy, right now.
Let me, if I...
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Cindy. Go ahead and do yours. I can hold.
Do you see them? Example, the last time I played in the LPGA Championship, it was when Michelle Wee was just coming out, and she was pretty new, and I was standing on the 10th hole waiting for a friend to go play a practice round, and my son, elbows me and says, let's go play with her, and she came with a whole entourage. Her mom and her dad and her fitness coach and her nutrition and David Ledbetter, and I was like, holy cow, is this what this is like now? And so I said to Jamie, I don't want to play with her.
I kind of don't blame you. I remember, watching Michelle Wee at the Craft Nabisco was the first I saw her, and the distance that she hit the ball, she had wedged into number 13 at Mission Hills Dinah Shore course, and I was always hitting a wood in. So, the lengths that they hit it, they do come with entourages. They're extremely well prepared. They have coaches, they have nutritionists, as you said, and they have fitness coaches. Their instruction from such an early age, and I think we can probably thank the AJGA, don't you think, Cindy, for that, because, these kids are almost professional amateurs before they even turn professional. They know what it's like to compete in high-level tournaments before they even get on the LPGA, and I think that's terrific. And that would be perhaps my one criticism of Michelle. A lot of people have a lot of things to say about her. I like the kid. I admire the fact, that she went to Stanford and got a degree, but her road to this point has been, a lot different. When Nancy Lopez came on the tour and just made such an incredible impact, she'd learned to win at every age, at every level, hadn't she, Cindy?
Yes, she did. She did.
And I think that's a lot different. Yes, Ted.
Yeah, let me ask a question along this lines, and I'll use certainly Michelle as an example. Certainly Michelle, phenomenal game when she first came out on the LPGA Tour, but one thing I did notice was her maturity level was a little bit different, obviously, when she first came out than what we see today. Do you get concerned sometimes when some of these very young girls especially come out? I mean, obviously we know that girls traditionally are more mature than boys are at that age, but do you get concerned sometimes that even though they're phenomenal athletes and they're very coached in that, there's still an internal maturity that has to develop over time, that when these young ladies come out at say 15 or even 13, we hear now some of them wanting to petition the tours, that maybe they're just mentally not really as ready as we might think? And is there something that we maybe need to take a closer look at to make sure that these youngsters are not getting into over their heads too quickly?
Well, I would certainly agree with that. And I think that the commissioner of the LPGA is very well aware of that. And he has not allowed Brooke Henderson from Canada to become a member at 16. Now, he did allow Lydia Ko to become a member at 16, but Lydia showed the fact that she won, back-to-back Canadian Opens. And perhaps being around Lydia, you can see there is a little bit of difference. And I think you're correct because, I could see that in Brooke at the U.S. Women's Amateur, the lack of perhaps golf. She's golf mature, but perhaps not media savvy, not as mature as she could be by kind of leaving the grounds and saying, you know what, I don't want to speak to anybody. I'm really upset. I should have won this event, this match, but I didn't. Now, I'm not necessarily, I guess I am criticizing her because she needed to do that. That's your obligation as an athlete, is to stay around, congratulate your opponent, take it like a woman, and learn from that particular situation. So I am concerned, and I saw young Lucy Liu, the 11-year-old. I think she showed quite not necessarily maturity, but she showed golf maturity. But she showed that she's a little girl. She's standing up there and eating an ice cream while she's being interviewed. So, yeah, I do think that's a concern. That was cute as a button. And I tell you what, she hit some golf shots. I didn't see her in person because I was out following other people. But the replays that I saw, she just laced some fairway woods right up the right at the flags at Pinehurst, and that's not an easy golf course. So I think that's something that the commissioner really has to take into account, and I have a lot of confidence that Mike Wan will do that. I think kids deserve the experience at an early age, but to become full members of the LPGA before 16, I think you have to be exceptional to be a member at 16, and Lydia Ko has surely shown that because she's now number 2 in the world.
Right, and I think, I'm sure if you did it, as a case-by-case situation, then I can certainly, I agree with that as well. There's been a lot of great examples, of course, of some of the younger girls coming out on the tour that have done very well, maturity-wise, and then there's obviously some examples, and we won't get into specifics, but that hasn't been the case. And I think, as you said, as long as the commissioner is aware of that and sort of doing it as a case-by-case and not just sort of opening the floodgates in order to draw attention to the tour, I think that's fine. Sorry, Cindy, go ahead.
I agree.
I happen to be the director of the LPGA Girls Golf Club of Buffalo, and sometimes we've done a course called Teaching Juniors Firing Parents, and my concern is such that these parents see someone like Lucy Liu or Lydia Ko or Michelle Wie, and they push their daughters or sons to become Tiger Woods or Michelle Wie, and I think that they need to be made aware that these are one in a gazillion players that are this mature, that can handle the heat, if you will. And I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, Jane, you've been closer to the situation than I have, but I sit and watch, and I see that Michelle had a little lull there in her career, which I think was a blessing, and I think it started from the Solheim Cup in Ireland when Beth Daniel was the coach and said, or the team captain, and said, your parents are not allowed anywhere near you. And I believe that was a blessing to not only Michelle, but the U.S. team. And I think that the kids need to have some space and become themselves. And now, since that point, I was watching closely because I sit back and monitor and seeing how the other women on the tour now are befriending Michelle because she couldn't have friends really before. She wasn't allowed. Mm-hmm.
I think that's very, very true, Cindy, and I do remember that particular Solheim Cup. I wasn't covering that one, but I do remember Beth Rick kind of laying down the law and saying, you know what, no parents around. This is a team situation. Everyone needs to be in this together. And I think also the fact that she actually went through the qualifying school, gained her card the legitimate way, so to speak.
Right.
I think that really gave a lot of the players like, okay, let's give this kid a chance. She's now one of us. She's earned her way on, and she has really endeared herself to many of the players. And I think she's one of the most popular young players on the tour right now. And I think Stanford, going to Stanford was a huge thing for her to not only attend but to graduate, get those 4 years under her belt, and have achieved such a tremendous, she earned it, and I give her a lot of credit. Yeah. I'm very fond of Michelle. I like her. Yeah. I've gotten along very well with her parents. I've kind of befriended them from an early time out on the tour, and they've always been generous with their time. I think Michelle dearly loves her parents. Don't get me wrong. She doesn't not want them around. But I think the rest of us don't want them around. She actually kind of likes being spoiled. And I as an only child, I kind of don't blame her. They do a lot of things for her, and they love her very much, and she loves them. But I think a lot of us would like to see them a little bit less visible. But they're passionate about it. And, I can't imagine. I don't have kids. Their only child. They're all just sort of wound up inside the whole situation.
Well, I'm sure I would be as well, and, because, again, you want the best for your children. But I believe that the road that she has taken and the path she's been on has been a blessing because I believe she's got such great talent, and that is what allowed her, college degree, and it's a great story.
It is a great story, and I was there. I didn't follow her group at the U.S. Women's Open, but obviously I hear everything that goes on. I was sitting at the 18th green watching it unfold, and I was just delighted that she was able to hang on. She gave us a little bit of a scare there at 16, trying to hit that wood out of the fairway bunker. I was going, oh my gosh, what are you going to do there? Because I played Pinehurst number 2 so many times, having lived in Pinehurst for about 10 or 12 years. So I was delighted for her. Terrific win, and I just hope that she's going to be well enough after that finger injury to play Evian this week. And, that's such a great event, and if she could win the Arnica Award, for performances in the major, I think that would be a huge victory for her.
Right.
Yeah, and what's interesting, Jane, is that you guys were talking about with her at the Solheim Cup earlier on. That was very reminiscent, really, of Tiger when he first was playing on the Ryder Cup. A lot of people were really very, as much as they wanted him there with his talent, it wasn't necessarily a great fit for him in the beginning. It just wasn't sort of what he was best at. And there were a lot of players that were very critical, and a lot of people in the media that were very critical of Tiger's earlier days on the Ryder Cup, whether he was actually going to be an asset or a liability.
Yes, and I think, it takes a while for players who have had the spotlight on them from the media to kind of feel like they belong. And I think, you listen to what Tiger has to say about the Ryder Cup, and they're some of his fondest memories. He is so enjoyed getting to know the guys because it's a solitary game. And I do think on the women's tour we do tend to gravitate to each other a little bit more for camaraderie perhaps than the men's tour, because a lot of the guys, travel with their families, travel with their wives, with their agents or whatever. And I think perhaps that it's easier for the women to make friends and to feel a little bit more like they belong. But as you correctly said, that Solheim Cup for Michelle Wie was sort of a watershed moment, and she gained that shall we say that acceptance from the rest of the players, and now she's a fully fledged member of the LPGA, and no one probably even remembers back to the days where she was a sponsor's invitation and withdrawing because of shooting whatever, because of all the drama that followed Michelle Wie. I mean, she could write a book, and she's not even that old still.
Yeah, the verdict is still out on her putting stance. I still don't understand that one, but if it's working, I guess a lot of people have made changes. That one always when I first saw her in her new putting stance, that kind of is my TV need to be adjusted, or am I seeing correctly, or what? It was just kind of an odd thing to see. But I guess if it works, it works, and I'm sure we'll see many changes as her career continues to blossom. But certainly an interesting player to watch, and we wish her much continued success in her career, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more exciting times ahead. Cindy, do you have any other questions for Jane?
I do not. But I thank you so much for coming on with us.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's bright and early here in Phoenix, but it's a beautiful day. It's a much nicer morning than it was yesterday morning when I woke up to all that flooding. And, my hearts go out to everybody, that's affected. It doesn't happen very often here in Arizona, but I've enjoyed living here. It's a lot of fun. It's a great state, and I'm looking forward to seeing you very soon, Cindy.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much for getting up so early.
No worries at all. Take care, you guys. Thank you.
All right. We appreciate it, Jane. Thank you very much for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, that was Jane Crafter that just joined us here. Of course, she's a former LPGA player and also currently on the Legends Tour along with Cindy Miller, my great co-host here. And I let her go too quick. I wanted to ask her about her nickname Crafty Mate, but we'll save that for another time. Also a great...
She's always saying mate to people. So when you see her, she says, how you doing, mate? Because she's from Australia. So.
I figured you'd probably know the answer to that one. But we appreciate both of our guests. And I just wanted to read a couple things out very quickly here before we wrap up. We're almost done here. But received a great email here the other night from the Women's Golf and Travel Concierge. Barbara Gutstad, of course, has been on the program, and she's the owner-CEO of Women's Golf and Travel Concierge, and she's got some dates coming up for some different things going on. The first one coming up here, of course, in the 14th to the 24th is the Solheim Cup being held over in Germany. For next year. That's next year. I apologize for the Solheim Cup. So if you're interested in booking for that, there's some great packages available, and you can do so by visiting her website. If you want information, there's info@womensgolfandtravel.com, or you can just go directly to the site, www.womensgolfandtravel.com, and they'll be more than happy to give you more information on that. And some other events that are coming up that she's looking to put together. One coming up in October, from October 1st to the 5th here in 2014 at Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic. That's going to be a 5-day, 4-night all-inclusive golf package. There's some yoga, spa treatments, golf, and lots of fun and friends. You can book that directly through the site as well, or if you want more information, as I said, you can navigate through the site and just send them an email. Also coming up October 3rd to the 5th in 2014 at the Grandover Resort in Greensboro, North Carolina. They have a great package available as well. It's a 36-hole golf championship course, luxurious spa and access to their fitness and sauna, steam room and hot tub, and a lot of other great things going on there. So if you want to take part in another great package there, you can certainly do so. And of course, wrapping out the year here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, December 4th to the 7th. Of course, as she puts it, 'tis the season. So join Barbara and the other ladies in Fort Lauderdale at the beautiful Riverside Hotel as they celebrate the approaching holidays. And it's definitely one gift that you should give yourself. So if you're interested in doing any of those, and particularly if you're interested for next year going over to the Solheim Cup in 2015 over in Germany, you can do so by visiting Barbara's website, the Women's Golf and Travel Concierge, at www.womensgolfandtravel.com. Make sure you do that, or you can reach them at toll-free 800-249-2496. And we appreciate all your support, as always, on the program here. Steve and I look forward to sharing this time with you every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. To all the listeners tuning in around the world, we appreciate our special guests, Michelle Estill and Jane Crafter, for joining us this morning, and all of our guests that come on here every week. We look forward to having you join us here, particularly every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern here on blogtalkradio.com as Women of Golf. Cindy, have a great week. And as I said, we're off next week, but we'll be back the following week. So have a great couple of weeks, I guess. And Cindy, we look forward to you joining me here in a couple of weeks.
Thank you very much, Ted. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Thank you.